Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. Today, the show is all about the spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center. Yes, there are spiritual dimensions, and what are they? And we are going to dedicate the whole program to understanding more about it. And if you have questions, feel free to contact us right now through our email at kardecradio@gmail.com or directly from Blog Talk Radio chat room at Kardec Radio, when you can send your comments or your questions. Or also you can call us at 858-769-4705 and talk to us live. And if you do, what are you going to get? You're going to win a Kardec Radio stamp. Can you believe it? Yes, there is a stamp that is valid. You can mail your letters with Kardec Radio stamp. And what are you going to do when you do so? You're going to share the news that there is a Spiritist radio there to nourish people's soul. It's another way of disseminating the good news. By the way, if you go to Kardec Radio right now, the website, kardecradio.com, you will be able to buy a booklet if you want. We have a few items there that are now available at Kardec Radio Store. It's KR Store, and you can buy them. The bumper sticker, Kardec Radio bumper sticker, which has been quite famous around the audience. And we have also the wristband. There are more items to come, but right now we are sharing because it's another way of disseminating the good news that Spiritism is here to nourish your soul. And you know, there is a beautiful day for us to talk about the beautiful spiritual dimensions of a Spiritist Center. But, you know, you can call in, reminding you, it's our toll-free number, 858-769-4705, and you can talk to us. You can ask a question, you can make a comment, and you can help us, help the listeners as well. Bring your insight, because here we are in more than 60 countries, bringing this message that is illuminating many, many, many. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And you may be asking, is what we are going to talk about today somehow related to the book Dimensões Espirituais do Centro Espírita by Sueli Carla Schubert? Yes, it is. But because it's not in English yet, we need to bring shows like this to break it down to those who don't know how to read Portuguese and are willing to understand more about the spiritual dimensions. This book's very precious, was published by the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, and is a great resource for all those who are seriously committed to putting together a serious Spiritist Center. And you have an opportunity right now of understanding more about this. Before we begin, we are going to remind you the very day in which Allan Kardec founded the first Spiritist Center in the world. It was April 1st, 1858, a year after he published the Spirit's book, and months after he started compiling the Spiritist magazine. So it's amazing that Allan Kardec felt, and not only felt, but he reasoned that there was a need to have a Spiritist nucleus to cherish, to practice the teachings of Spiritism, to empower people in their own lives and reach out to everyone in their own spirituality. So Allan Kardec is the inspiration for us, and we're going to get to know more about it. How does it happen? Do we just found a center like this according to our will? How do we organize it? How does it happen? Are really there spiritual dimensions of a Spiritist center? So, dear listener, here we are. Stay there, because after this first break, we're going to be here with you sharing the good news that there are spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center and what they are.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, it's about the spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center. In Brazil alone, there are more than 15,000 Spiritist centers. In the United States, there are more than 70 Spiritist centers. And in the world, there are thousands of Spiritist centers spread out throughout the world. The United States Spiritist Council, the Canadian Spiritist Council, they belong to, as much as other international federations, they belong to an international organization called the International Spiritist Council that helps and assists Spiritist centers throughout the world, so they not only form their centers, but they also get to know the spiritual dimensions of Spiritist Center. And you may be asking there, and if you have a comment or a question, feel free to email us at kardecradio@gmail.com or talk to us here at the Blog Talk Radio chat room and send in your comment or question, or you can call in live, and when you do so, you can get Kardec Radio stamp at 858-769-4705. The show today relies mostly upon a book that is still in Portuguese and yet to be translated into other languages, but it's a phenomenal book, and that's why we're dedicating the show to this very, very important topic, the spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center, written by the renowned Spiritist scholar in Brazil, Sueli Caldas Schubert. She is very knowledgeable, and she compiled this book based on the Spiritist teachings in many traditional classical books in Spiritism. In the introduction of this book, there is a message that was received by the medium Divaldo Franco. The spirit, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, comes and tells us, I'm going to summarize to you the highlights of the preface of the book written by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes through the hands of Divaldo Franco. He says that in April of 1857, Allan Kardec published the Spirit's book. Soon after, he published the Spiritist magazine. And then, on April 1st, 1858, he understood, Allan Kardec himself, that there was a need not only to study and practice these teachings, but also to put together nuclei that we call Spiritist societies to study the phenomena of spirits, to apply the science that exists in regards to the understanding of the nature, the origin, and the destiny of us spirits. And that's how it was inaugurated, the first Spiritist Center in the world, to promote a better world. That's exactly the reason why it is here. And it says that it was inspired in the gatherings that Jesus promoted when people got together to exercise their spirituality, giving them courage, new energies to free them from the inner battles. And Dr. Bezerra says the Spiritist Center, however, in the current times, brings this understanding of the gathering, like when the disciples and Jesus were together, where we should experience solidarity, work together, and tolerance. And they say, and he says to us here, it's not only about a physical structure, it's about a spiritual building, a spiritual structure, a spiritual rock that is at its foundation. And the result of the harmonious vibrations of those who form the center and its members constitutes a blessed sanctuary where the exchange between discarnates and incarnates will be together. So, dear listener, it's quite interesting to know that Dr. Bezerra de Menezes is telling us that this is a spiritual edification. And he says more. It's an office of work where it's a hospital for the souls who are in need, and a place where we learn to rid ourselves from bad inclinations, from vices, to achieve integral health. It's a school for integral education to facilitate our learning about the laws of life and putting it inside of us. It is also a home where true fraternity should live in. This is important. A home where a legitimate fraternity should understand, where people should make efforts to understand one another and work with true sentiments of unity and unification. The Spiritist Center has a great role in the Spiritist movement, contributing to the constitution of a noble and dignified society according to the teachings of Spiritism, which is the teachings of Christ consciousness. Thus, there is no room for political and arbitrary sayings, no innovations, and nothing that goes against the whole Spiritist teaching. This is quite interesting for us, what he's saying. And he says a little bit more to us, that in this book, there is the foundation for all those who are willing to understand more about it. And Dr. Bezerra de Menezes closes this part of the preface of the book by inviting us to meditate more about the spiritual dimensions of the center. Did you know that a Spiritist Center is formed in the spiritual realm before it is actually here in the spiritual realm, in the physical one? That's what happens. The physical realm, when a center is formed, according to the Spiritist teachings in these books and in André Louis' books and Emmanuel, Sueli Kada Schubert tells us that each center was first founded in the spiritual realm. Sometimes centuries before, it actually came true in the material realm. Not only that, there is a physical structure for it in the spiritual realm. There is also the recruiting of those who are assigned to lead it. So it's very important for us to know that it's not, nowadays we see people when they form groups totally lost, and they're like, where do we begin? Oh my God, I have this idea, and it becomes like I, my, mine, my idea, my guide, my this, my that. And sincerely, it's nothing to do with I, my, or mine, because it's everything to do with the higher minds that were actually planning this. And we in the physical realm, we're important, but we're not indispensable. Not only that, we're important, but we are officers of the big minds. They are the ones who organize it. So instead of saying, what do we do? Asking this question, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we do it? We should instead pray together and say, let us capture what the real coordinators of the group have planned. They are the ones who have planned out what is in need to be fulfilled. And then we together get to a consensus. I agree, reasoning tells that this inspiration really makes sense because it's going to benefit the general good. And this is quite interesting, dear listener, because the rule of thumb for a Spiritist center is only one. We prioritize the general good. We do not prioritize what is of personal interest. Nowadays, we see many people being mistaken in regard to the main activity in the Spiritist Center. Though we give a lot of talks, to be a speaker is not the highlight of anyone who is in a Spiritist Center. That's not the main role. There was a time in which people were fighting in Spiritist centers to be the main medium. Nowadays, there are people fighting to be the leading speakers. And this is really not in accordance with what the teachings we read in the books. Chico Xavier is an example of us, for us. He prioritized reaching out to his local community first. Some people are more concerned about mingling with others in other countries, in other states, in other places, instead of rooting their Spiritist center in their local community. And you may be asking right there, what is it, Vanessa? What is it that we need to do to follow the footsteps of Jesus, our guide and model? Jesus himself, he was not mostly a speaker. He was not famous because of his talks. He was not famous for it. He was not even famous at the time because he was crucified. But he became renowned amongst us, for he reached out to every single person who was in the local community. Of course, he reached out to others as well, but he didn't, dear listener. And you may agree or disagree, but based on the teachings, this is how we are breaking it down according to the book by Sueli Cara Schubert, Dimensões Espirituais do Centro Espírita. Jesus himself was not concerned about a temple. He didn't make Peter's home like an official church, but a true legacy of love, reaching out to others. He didn't sit there in the living room of Peter's home, waiting for people to come in and get to know of it, and then he would lecture. No. He was always traveling from place to place, from community to community. And when he was at Peter's home, he opened the doors to do counseling. This is so important in a Spiritist center. to do the spiritual counseling, not what people do nowadays, this psychic type of counseling, because that is really twisted. We cannot come to a Spiritist center and ask, oh, should I change this job? This is not a question that we shall entertain. We are not at the time in which people were playing with the turning tables to ask, should I get married to this? Should I go to the market and do grocery shopping? Should I buy this car? Should I get married to this person? Should I do... No. We shall not allow these questions to take a place in our centers, but we should make available the fraternal counseling. But not only open the doors of the center, but go to the local communities. I'll give you an example. For example, Chico Xavier. If he had opened the center and stayed in the center at a time in which Spiritism was being persecuted, it doesn't happen to us nowadays, dear friends. Not to that extent. And it's never going to happen to that extent. If he had stayed inside, excusing himself, oh, people don't understand Spiritism. I have to stay here. I have to do my little work here. And only mingling with Spiritists in other places, but staying there without reaching out to the local community, he wouldn't have fulfilled his role. And that's what's happening nowadays. Not in countries such as Brazil and Colombia or others, but in other countries where Spiritism is still at the baby steps. People are really mistaken, and we're creating like little convents, little like monasteries. And we mingle with those who are Spiritists elsewhere. But what are we doing in our local communities? Do we know the organizations or the people who are in need? Because Jesus said these teachings came for those who are in need. What is the local need of your Spiritist center, of the community in the area of your Spiritist center? Do you know? What is it? If there are people like in Baltimore City, that there is a lot of poverty due to the civil wars that we had, the slavery. Baltimore has a track record of poverty, unlike many places in the United States, a lot of violence, a lot of drug addiction. So the Spiritist Society of Baltimore has been following the inspiration of the mentors of the society, the spirit mentors. And they've always said, go find out the needs of the city. Learn about the history of the city so you can engage. And that's what we have been doing. We should do more, but it's an example of what we need to do. We should not pass this image to people that the center stage in a Spiritist center is studying Spiritism and giving lectures, giving speeches, because this is not what we're here for. We're not becoming professionals in Spiritism. I see people nowadays on Facebook writing, leaders in the Spiritist movement, writing that their work is to work for ex-Spiritist organization. And really, this is not our professional work. You are not a professional worker of this Spiritist organization or that. This is a disservice because we cannot recreate the church pattern in the Spiritist Center. This would be a disservice to Spiritism. So we really need to be coherent. And in this book, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes shares a little more, and we would say a lot more. He says, a Spiritist center where the vibration of its attendees, both incarnates and discarnates, radiate the respectful minds, the fervent hearts, the elevated aspirations, where the word there spoken is beyond the superficiality and depreciations of the world. And that's another point. Many people nowadays, they like the speaker if they tell jokes, They make them laugh. And making people laugh with respect is good, but with depreciation, talking things that are vulgar, sincerely, we never saw that in serious centers. That's why in the current issue of the Spiritist magazine, according to the Spirit Mentors of the Spiritist magazine, we dedicated the whole issue to troubleshooting the Spiritist Center. We are much in need of troubleshooting it. And we are much in need because, as Dr. Bezerra says, we need to be serious instead of being coming to the center to be entertained. We should practice prayer instead of being claiming and doing what we do with so many speakers who now are imitating other speakers. Some speakers are imitating the style of Divaldo Franco and other speakers, and we ask, psychologically speaking, it shows that the person has a conflict, because we shouldn't go there. We are not here to imitate anybody. They are actions, but not the style. This is really psychologically twisted. It shows the conflict. We really need to be coherent with the teachings. And one of the things is be simple. Let us be simple. Jesus was simple, dear friends. It's easy. Because when we say like, oh my God, the Spiritist Center is draining me, something is wrong. Because it should be easy in the sense of it should flow. We should bring to the Spiritist Center, according to Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, that feeling of we're one. We are not there to dispute point of view. We're not there to attack anybody. We're not there to show people that we're doing a good work. We don't show good work. We do good work. And the world is suffering. We receive so many emails through Kardec Radio, through the email of the Spiritist magazine, through the phone numbers that we hold according to the connections for the Spiritist side of Baltimore, the Spiritist side of Virginia. I can tell you, there are so many people suffering in the world that we should probably open a hotline where people should engage to reach out to those who are in need and counsel them and train our people in the Spiritist Center, not to go there and give talks, because that is sharing the teaching, is not to be applauded by people. And now people are disputing who is the kid on the block in regards to a speaker. This is really against the teachings. We are here to empower the teams in our Spiritist Center so they can master hospitality in the Spiritist Center, making people feel welcomed. That's why recently, 2 weeks ago, the Spirit side of Baltimore and the Spirit side of Virginia got together and we went through a whole morning, like a course, a crash course on how to master hospitality in the Spiritist Center. And Allan Kardec is a role model for us because he didn't spend time tapping on people's shoulders and saying, oh, you're wonderful, you're great, good job. Because as Divaldo Franco once said to us, people are not working for us. They shouldn't expect us to tell them good job because they are working for Jesus. We shouldn't expect, so sensitivity would go away. In the Spiritist magazine, issue 19, that was just released, and you can read it free of charge at thespiritistmagazine.com. You go there and you read a very important alert by Dr. Viana de Carvalho through Divaldo Franco. And also a beautiful message by Brother X that he talks about the tiny creatures, and he says, we'll summarize it, but it's worth reading everything. He says, a Spiritist center could be just like a tree. What does it mean? Beautiful. It can stand there up and tall and fruitful, irrespective of the storms and the birds and the passers-by. But the little creatures, the little ones, the little bugs, they can come in, and in an infestation, they can put the tree down. And what is that alert that Brother X is giving to us? He says, it's about oversensitivity, what we call in Portuguese, melindre. When people, Spiritist workers, they come in and out and they say, oh, I left the center because nobody came to me and said, good job. Well, you're not working for the president of the center. You're not working for the spirit directors. You're working for yourself. It's your redemption. Nobody should expect to receive a tap on the shoulder saying, oh, people don't say anything, that's why I stop. No. And we need to do what we need to do. So right now, dear listener, we're going to give a short break. But when we come back, we have more. We have a beautiful passage here by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, one of his main highlights about what the do's and don'ts in a Spiritist center. But there's more. Did you know a Spiritist center has spiritual defenses? Did we know that the conference room needs to be prepared by the spirits? There are guards in the Spiritist center in regards to the spiritual realm. Did we know we should watch out when we leave the Spiritist center because we may be at risk? What risk is this, you may be asking? Well, come back. After the break, we have more.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, it's all about the spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center. We need it. We're going to dedicate this whole month only to topics that our listeners have been requesting. We know we all need one another. We need each other to really get to know more about what do we do to empower our centers. And, dear listener, we cannot make Spiritism profession. If you don't have a profession and you want to make the Spiritist practice in the role of whatever you have in a Spiritist center, your profession, don't do this. Because Spiritist Center is not a church. We cannot repeat the mistake of professionalizing Spiritist centers. You cannot satisfy your ego in the roles that you have in the center. Because the roles we have in the center are to serve ourselves and others. They are not there. The roles we have are temporary, and they are there for us to serve. And somebody has already emailed us, so we're going to reply to them. When we talked about reaching out to the community, we talked about what Chico Xavier did, what Jesus did, what Divaldo Franco does. and many, many others. We need to identify first, what is this city that I'm living in? What is the story, the history of it? What are the basic needs of my community? I need to know the numbers. What do people need? So if my city has those needs, I need to reach out to the city first. Mingle with the people who are leaders in the city. We're not here to create Spiritist monasteries that are like islands in our cities. No, we need to know who the local people are and reach out to them as a community, but make a difference. Making a difference, even if it is to give them $1. And we say this because Chico Xavier, he didn't have the money. When he had, he shared. And when people gave the money to him, he gave it to others. How? I know somebody who came to the Spirit Society of Virginia and said, Vanessa, my mother was one of the people who actually received one of Brazilian money. It's like $1 for us. Really? Your mother received like $1? Yes. But for her, it was important at the time. It really made a difference. And what do we do? Do you know the organizations, like the nonprofit organizations that are reaching out in your city, in your community? Because some people are more concerned about recreating the church style, mingling only amongst those who understand and creating monasteries. Friends, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes says quite clearly for us. He says, a Spiritist center is a place where the vibrations of both the incarnate and discarnates should radiate the respectful minds, the fervent hearts, and the elevate aspirations inside each one of them. Where the word emitted would never bring about vulgar depreciations, where laughter should not take place instead of a prayer, where people should not praise one another instead of connecting to the happier inspirations of the higher spirits, where we should not have mundane entertainment or ceremonies. Instead, we should commune mentally with the beloved spirit guides of the center. A center that is thus faithful to the recommendations of those who initiated the Spiritist philosophy will be given full trust of spirituality. There they will be modeling what is in need to be done, and its directors will be honoring both planes of light. However, if the center decides to take extravagant and inappropriate practices, and they really use the center to make it not a temple of love and fraternity, but like a club where people get together just to entertain during their free time, then they will be left to the spirits that they will be attracting. This is pretty much what Dr. Bezerra de Menezes is telling us. We say this because in the previous show we talked about the Spiritist help for immigrant parents. And one of the things that we discussed, science tells that the best thing to give support to immigrant parents is to create a community support where family is reunited. And Spiritist centers can serve that purpose. But if and only if they don't become a foreign immigrant club, because then we're not helping. So here, the good spirits, through Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, they are saying, following the footsteps of the codifier, Allan Kardec. And when you go to the current issue of the magazine, Luis Salazar who is the director of our sister radio, Bezerra Online Web Radio at Spiritist.com. He compiled a beautiful article about Allan Kardec really surviving the times, and he talks about features of Kardec that are good to know. Because Kardec, many mediums didn't stay in his center because they were too sensitive. They were like, oh, Kardec doesn't praise me, doesn't say I'm great, and they left the center. But Kardec had the good attitude, the right attitude, because we're not babysitters. The Spiritist directors of a center are not babysitters. They are not there to, praise people for their little achievements or great achievements. We are there to open opportunities for all of us to work together. People forget when they step in a center, there is a physical structure. How are we helping with that physical structure? We need to help. We can't simply go there, take what we need and leave, and, okay, whomever is in charge of the center, they have to pay the bills. They have to take care of everything else. No. According to André Luiz in the book, This Obsession, the main practitioners in the center, they also need to engage and help with the expenses of the center. But we hear now, I have a question that was brought to us by Elizabeth Mason. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being here with us. And her question is it possible to just start a group to study Spiritism and then together reach out to the community and try to find out how one can be useful? Yes. Kardec talks about it. This is next show about how to form a group. Kardec's advice. And you can find a study group, You don't need to go full force Spiritist Center. A study group, and then the group Spiritist out of Baltimore. This is how it was founded. We found it with the study sessions, and then we were doing reach out programs. But we don't go giving talks and telling people, oh, we do this, we do that, because that's against the principle. We're bragging about ourselves, and people think, oh, Vanessa is so charitable. That's not the goal. The goal is to do what we have to do, and people may not know what we're actually doing, because God is the one that needs to know. And we have to do what we have to do. But then Elizabeth asked another question about what is exactly this point when we say the community's needs. I'll give an example. In Brazil, there is a lot of misery, right? There's a lot of misery there. So it's inevitable that people, if they don't have food, we need to bring them food. If they don't have clothes, we give them clothes. In Baltimore, for example, we found out there is a big problem with drug addiction. When we found that out, it was ranking the top level in the United States in the number of heroin and cocaine, etc. So what did we do? We found organizations that were reaching out to drug addicts. And we started donating to them, talking to them and donating the material of the campaign we launched with Divaldo Franco in 2005, I Love Myself, I'm Drug Free. It's both the CD that we put together and the book based on Divaldo's talk. And we started reaching out to them, donating these materials to really help them out. It's food for the soul. They don't need food because they have food, but they need spiritual food. We found out later that there are organizations such as Sarah's Hope, which is an organization that reaches out to women and children who, due to the fact that slavery happened, they are not privileged in our society. They don't have a home to live. They have Sarah's Hope as their temporary home, but they need us to go and cook meals for them or donate meals on the go for them. So this is what we do. It depends on our local community, and we need to reach out Because if we stay in our Spiritist center, waiting for people to come, we're just recreating a little monastery there. And according to the book that is already in English, 50 years later, when there is a beautiful dialogue between Celia and the coordinator, Father Epifanio, in the book, she raises her hand and said, "But Father Epifanio, it's okay for us to stay here in the monastery as long as people are being persecuted out there. But I recommend that according to Jesus, we go back to our society and reach out to those who are in need, just like Jesus did. We cannot stay here studying, and that's it. So it's important to study Spiritism. It's important to give lectures. But it's not the center stage of the Spiritist teaching. I will repeat what we said at the beginning of the program. There was a time in which people were competing to be the main medium in the Spiritist Center. Now it's sad to say people are competing to see who is going to be the most famous speaker. This is really a disservice. And we just get together amongst ourselves. Our Spiritist events should open the doors. And not only the doors through the talks, but also create service in the events in which, like the fraternal counseling, prepare people to be there and in 15, 20 minutes talk to newcomers in their needs and say, okay, maybe you need to go to a center and receive passes or read this book and receive some form, creating a strategy to reach out to people even at our bigger events. Because the Spiritist Center cannot be the recreation of a church. Spiritist Center is not a church. The Spiritist practitioners are not the new, like the speakers, the presidents, they are not bishops. They are there to serve. Jesus taught us simplicity. He taught us that we should do what Dr. Bezerra is telling us here. But, people are asking us about the spiritual dimensions. And in the book by Sueli Schubert, she says, there are spiritual buildings. Like she says, the Spiritist Center is a spiritual complex in both realms of life, where two humanities, both incarnate and discarnate, get together. That's what it is. How often do we come to a Spiritist Center and we think about the discarnates who are there? Who thinks about it? Remember Mentor Joseph sharing, Vanessa, I was stopping by the Spirit Side of Baltimore to bring like a vase of flowers. And it's quite interesting because it was not a day of a public meeting. I was just stopping by, and when I was at the elevator, he said, "Oh, you're happy, right?" And I said, "Yes, Joseph, I am very happy." He said, "Great, but remember, though you are happy, remember, you are not here to disturb the works that we're doing." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm just bringing a vase of flowers." "Yes, but remember, we're working here now. So when you come to the center is not your home. Open the door. Ask for, excuse yourself because you're coming in. And remember, don't make too much noise because we are here working. And the center, Vanessa, is not your home in the sense of it's not mine." I was really impressed with that take. Because though we know, we may forget. Forget not that it is ours, no. But forget that the spirits are working there 24/7. They don't work there only when we are here. Okay? And the thing is, the spiritual building of the Spiritist Center. Sueli Schubert says, according to the teachings in Spiritism. It's built sometimes hundreds of years in the spiritual realm before it actually is formed. The directorship of the center is chosen by Jesus and his messengers way before. So some people ask, Vanessa, I don't know who the mentor of our center is. Great, you don't know, but it exists. The mentor of your center is already there. Oh, we have to decide who is going to be the mentor. It doesn't happen that way. It's the other way around. They exist, and we need to get to know who they are. But it will come. It doesn't matter the name. It doesn't matter. According to the Spirit book, it doesn't matter the name of the guardian angel. It matters the interaction with the guardian angel and our connection. So, in that regard, it's very important that, as Welly says, the project essentially is to help the incarnates, she says. And that's why we have all the works, but we also have the works to help the discarnates. And this is another point for people to understand, because sometimes they say, oh, but we're here helping the discarnates. We don't need to go in our local community and help them out because this is the United States and people don't need soup, so we don't need to reach out to them. Really? They don't need soup, but they need probably somebody to visit them in the nursing home. There you go. But the Spiritist Center is here mostly for the incarnates. These are words that are said by the mentor. So you can give a name of the center. Don't feel guilty because it's on the incarnates to exercise that. And that's not going to change the way. Let's say I name my center Joseph Spiritist Center. And then I find out later that the mentor of the center is Mary. Oh my God, is Mary now upset with me? No, because it has nothing to do with it. It's about your decision, your inspiration with the group. We'll talk more about the formation of the group next week, according to Kardec. Right now, as people are asking us about the magnetic resources of defense, you may be asking now, why do we need defense in the center? Why? Why do we need to defend ourselves? What is the reason why? Because the less illuminated spirits on planet Earth, they don't like it. They don't like that we are in the good pathway. Kardec asked this question, why do inferior spirits incite us to evil? Well, because they are jealous and because they are not happy. And our planet Earth is still at that level, unfortunately. All works of goodness, not only in Spiritism, they are often threatened by the minds of those who, are in the beyond. And to illustrate this, the need of defense of the center, and we may be asking ourselves, like, am I helping the protection of the center, or am I bringing more disturbance? In the book that is not in English yet, okay? It's the book by Brother X, Contos e Apólogos, okay? He has a chapter entitled In the Domains of Shadow, and it's chapter 40. And he talks about a meeting in the afterlife of the forces of darkness who are upset because Spiritism is really spreading itself out. And it's bothering their infernal plans. So then they get together and they say, the leader of the forces of darkness, and this is important for everyone who is in the chat room also, who is asking about their personal life to understand this as well, because it pertains to all of us. It talks about the fact that they don't like that works of goodness spread themselves out. So the main leader of the forces of darkness asked this question: what can we do to stop this spiritist dissemination? Then they have several committees, and one of the committees is about incredulity, and they say, I know we can disseminate that God doesn't really exist and people are really to themselves. And then the leader of darkness said, well, this argument doesn't serve, because people have already found out that the more intelligent they are, the more they feel the paternity of God, which is quite interesting. And then the committee of vanity. You see, there are committees in the forces of darkness in regards to incredulity, vanity. And they say, well, what about if we share that Jesus actually doesn't have anything to do with spiritism, and they should mind only about science and make that division between science and spiritism, and the scientific, the moral part of spiritism. And the answer is fascinating. It says, well, this illusion has been important. Millions of people have already, awakened for that, and they already know that actually spiritism encompasses everything. Well, then another group came along and said, I know what we can do. They said the committee of discord. Can you believe it? There is a committee to create discord. This is fascinating in the sense of, for us to know their strategies, because Brother X brought these teachings through Chico Xavier, for us not to fall in the traps of what's happening. So there he says, well, the forces of discord said, well, what if we just create discord? We make people think, well, we separate them by creating slander. And this is the message by Joana de Angelis that is already in the Spiritist magazine. It's entitled Destructive Virus, the spiritistmagazine.com. Joana de Angelis, September 10th, she talks about intrigue as a virus, creating a lot of destruction. And we think we are going to create problems for others, and when we least see that we're in the same boat. We think somebody else is sinking, and we forget that we're in the same boat and we're going to sink together. So the forces of discord, they say, what about if we create slander? If we create groups of people who just get together to talk about others? And then the chief of the forces of darkness replied, that's a good thing to do, But sooner or later, people are going to wake up. They are going to wake up, and they are going to understand through humility and prayer that they are brothers and sisters in humanity. Then the groups that create indiscipline, they said, well, I know. You know what we can do? And you may identify with this. People in the center say this a lot. They say, well, I know, we can resolve and destroy the center by making the meetings too long, by making their pathway, like traffic, become unbearable, by saying that the center is too far. Isn't that what we hear all the time? People saying, the center is so far from my house, it's just 20 minutes away. And then we were joking with a friend in the Spirit side of Virginia, our friend John DeRosa. We're saying maybe we should create a mobile Spiritist center and come to each person's house, because they don't want to drive like 20 minutes to get to the Spiritist center. But this is a strategy of the spirits who create indiscipline. And they say, we can create problems in their home, so they give up. We can create family gatherings on the very day of the Spiritist session. Isn't that what many people do? Oh, today is our birthday and we can't go to the center. Well, why don't you celebrate another day? Because birthday, really, in a Spiritist perspective, it's not to incite egotism. It's about serving and being grateful to life And some people, they think that their birthdays are, the world should stop to praise them. This is really twisted. I never heard of Jesus celebrating his birthday. It's not that we shouldn't be happy about birthday. We should. But we need to grow mature and mean like, on the day of my birthday, I should be thanking life for life. I should be giving gifts to others, serving, instead of be willing to be served. This is maturity. And then the spirits say, yeah, this strategy, creating problems and tumult in the place so they give up on coming to the center, works. And this is routine for us. But this main strategy is not the winning one. Well, what if then the group of doubt, a committee of doubt, came along and said, Master of Darkness, I know. What if we create this credit, discredit the mediums so they feel like they are a fraud and a failure? They said, yeah, this is a good strategy, but at the end, they're all going to forgive themselves. Finally, the committee of laziness, this is unbelievable, committee of laziness got together and said, I know, Master. And they're very reverent. This is amazing because they're so reverent amongst themselves in the forces of darkness. They really respect the leader, unlike many places where goodness happens. But here they say, the committee of laziness. I know. We can just tell them, yes, guys, you're right. Yes, God exists. Jesus is the guide and model. The soul is immortal. Justice, divine justice is there. Reincarnation is there. And then the leader of the forces of darkness was upset with the committee of laziness because he asked, where you're going to with these comments? What is this strategy? He said, Master, it's simple. We tell them, yes, what you're doing is right, Spiritists. But why the rush? Why the rush? Why do you need to do it all in one incarnation if you can do in many? And this is the winning strategy of the forces of darkness. They come to us and say, you're working too much for Spiritism. You're doing too much. Come on. Have a life. Come on, you have a family. Come on, you have work. Come on, you have your health. You don't need to do it all. And this, dear friends, according to the wise Brother X, is the winning strategy of the forces of darkness to put Spiritist centers down. Telling people, have a life. Enjoy life. You are helping already. You cook a meal for the Spiritist Center once a week. You're already doing a lot. You already serve as a past giver once a week. You're already doing a lot. Thinking that it's a lot. And this is a strategy that is the leading strategy of the forces of darkness. Dr. Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, in the book Torments of Obsession, that is being studied and translated both by the Spirit Society of Baltimore and the Spirit Society of Virginia, has a beautiful chapter that talks exactly about this. Mental laziness is the leading factor in the failure of Spiritists in the incarnate life. Mental laziness. So, a lot of food for thought. Because we're trying to know about the magnetic defenses of a center. And Sueli Carla Schubert, in the book Spiritual Dimensions of the Spiritist Center, Chapter 3, she quotes Manuel Filomeno de Miranda when he talked about the fact that each center has vibratory magnetic defenses against those who want to come in, but they are sustained by the mental attitude of those who come to the Spiritist Center. That's the reason why Allan Kardec said, watch out, dear friend. Watch out, dear friend. because if you are in any way and means allowing people to come and just use the center for their entertainment and using it as a club, etc., we're opening the magnetic defense of the center for the discarnate spirits of the same nature. We're going to go to another break. When we come back, we have a lot to share with you. It's all about the method of sterilization that happens in the conference room of a Spiritist center, and also in preparation for mediumistic meetings and passes.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
The newest edition of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec is now available. Purchase your copy online or via your ebook reader. Simply go to www.edicofamerica.com today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Join us every Thursday live. Evolution in Two Worlds. A journey of the soul through the teachings of the Spirit Doctor, Andrea Luiz. Connect at www.tvcei.com, Channel 2.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone, the online study of the Spirit's Book and the Gospel according to Spiritism. Spiritism for Everyone meets every Wednesday evening and Saturday morning using the latest technology in web conferencing. You can join in from any computer in the comfort of your home or office, no matter where you are in the U.S. or the world. Spiritism for Everyone is open, free, and requires no registration. To access the web live meetings, go to www.spiritist.us. Spiritism for Everyone is a program of the United States Spiritist Council.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, it's all about spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center. And we are having here a good time with all those who are emailing us and they don't have courage to call. That's okay. You can still get your Kardec Radio stamp, but it's about your comments. And thank you so much for those who are also at Blog Talk Radio, Kardec Radio chat room for sharing their thoughts and their suggestions here. What we need to know as well, as Sueli Schubert said, the Spiritist Center, we should tell our attendees and our team, we're not getting together there as a club. It's like somebody once told me, Vanessa, I cannot be myself here. No, not you, not everybody. Nobody can be themselves here. Because this is not our home. This is not our living room. We cannot have people there exchanging recipes. Come on, this is a Spiritist Center. Who comes there? In a course that was given recently by the Spirit Side of Baltimore and the Spirit Side of Virginia on mastering hospitality in the Spiritist Center, we touched the very subject that Sueli Schubert talks about. She says the people who come, we need to be aware of the people who come to the center. Majority of people who come to the center, they are in need of something. Whether it's knowledge, if they're starving for knowledge, we need to give them Spiritism. Some centers are talking about everything else but Spiritism. Yes, science is great, but the Spiritist Center bridges up the teachings with science, but it's not a scientific laboratory. I shall not come there and talk about psychology, Jung, Jung and Freud and all the other things and forgetting about quantum physics, etc., if I don't bridge that up with the teachings and the basis and foundation of Kardec, and that's what Sueli Schubert says. It's a place where spirituality will develop the resources to help those who come in. People think the passes room or the mediumistic room, for centers who have that separately, are the most important places. The conference room, the place where we do our study sessions, they say, according to chapter 4 in her book, specialized spirits magnetize the environment and preserve, renovating it constantly to create the proper healthy psychosphere for the works that need to be done. They install magnetic defenses that block discarnate entities that are hostile and are willing to do bad. They don't come in. Such resources are vital for the nature of the work that Spiritist centers do. It's a place where, she says, people who have mediumship just blossoming at the first stages or mediumship that is imbalanced, people who are obsessed, who have severe mental problems, who have a lot of problems in their personal lives. Let us imagine, she says, for a minute, the environment of that room in regards to the incarnates. The great majority who comes to a Spiritist center has problems and sufferings, and when they arrive, they are afflicted, anguished, tired, desperate, and not rare when they have suicidal thoughts or very negative thoughts. And they are there to be relieved. And when they bring that type of psychic atmosphere, they need an environment to counterbalance that and help. So specialized spirits, she says, do a triage of the discarnates that are really in need. And great is the number of entities, she says, that stay outside of the center, awaiting permission to get in or awaiting an opportunity to come in with the cracks that exist in the magnetic defenses created by disturbances in the center. That's why when I visit Spiritist Center, I cannot tell people or dictate to them, do this, do that, or do the other, because I do not know what is the best to do. One day somebody came to us and said, "Oh, Vanessa, why don't you change this?" And they are not an attendee of the center. They are just visiting. And I just thought, what does this person know to give this advice? They don't know. So it's very important for us not to be distracted and understand that when we go into the center, there are those who stay outside. And she says, when we leave, like in the book Missionaries of the Light by André Luiz, it's one of the first chapters. André Luiz discloses to us that when we get into the Spiritist Center, we may leave those entities outside. And then when we get in and when we leave, they may reconnect to us, because then we go back into that mood. So we have, as Elizabeth Mason is saying here in the chat room of Kardec Radio, we should not stay outside and chat after the meetings, because they stay outside, because they are not allowed to stay in. And if you don't understand the concept, we recommend that you read the book Missionaries of the Light by André Luiz. You can get it at edisayofamerica.com or at amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, and it's a beautiful book that explains exactly what it is. It was brought by the mediumship of Chico Xavier. The spirit, the author is André Luiz. So that's why she says, Sueli Schubert says, When we are in the center, we should keep silence, inner meditation, prayer, to create an environment for the good spirits. So, talking about our personal things when we come to the center is not good, especially for practitioners. We often recommend, according to Kardec, when practitioners come into the center, they should forget they have a personal life. Because when you get in, it's like for Chico Xavier. You forget you have problems. Because there you are there to serve. You don't request anything. Even in your inner thoughts, like, oh my God, can my mother, who is in the afterlife, come and bring me a message? You don't ask because you know the phone rings from the spiritual realm to us. They call us. And when we are there to serve, we forget we have problems because we're there to serve. We're there to serve. We need to forget about I, my, mine. And especially we would say this because nowadays many Spiritist practitioners have social media. Watch out for what you display in the social media. Facebook, for example. If you're president of a Spiritist center, we need to be coherent. We're not high school anymore because many are playing just like high school. You know, Facebook is there to help us. But you know, statistics tell 98% of people who have Facebook, which is 11% of humanity on the earth, they are in the age of 18-24. So it's a high school level. If we Spiritists have Facebook, let us use it. Not for high school behavior. Because it's not high school. Showing, we're president of Spiritist and then we're showing pictures of the food we are eating, the wedding, and this and the other. Really, we should really be coherent here. Be very coherent and be mature. Be mature. Because then the people who come to our centers, they're going to see it. And there is no seriousness there. They're going to see, oh, the president of the center is just like a high school kid who is just playing like the kid on the block. And this is really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Because we should spread, as Dane Anderson is saying, spread messages of faith on Facebook. That's right. Sharing the events, sharing good messages, disseminating it. But I see mediums there who show pictures of themselves without a shirt. I mean, what is this? And then when people come to the center, the magnetic defenses of the center are compromised by our behavior there. Not only on Facebook, anywhere, of course, right? So we really need, as Suerika Schubert says, we need to pay attention because during the talks, the spirits are doing true spiritual surgeries. And that is true. When we do Spiritist events, we need to remember it's a therapeutic time for the spirits. So we really need to watch out. The suffering spirits are really, really counting on our attitude as Spiritist practitioners of the Spiritist Center to seal the Spiritist Center. And we cannot use it. And she talks about the aggressions of spirits. That happened in a case with the famous medium, Petitinga. He was in the Spiritist Center in Bahia, Brazil. And it's in the book Nos Bastidores da Obsessão by Divaldo Franco, through the spirit, of course, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, saying the man was there giving a talk and suddenly somebody came in and started saying, oh, you're a hypocrite. Who are you to do this and that? This is aggression, right? And Petitinga understood and said, yes, you're right. I still have a lot to conquer. And, I really need to improve myself. And the man really shifted his mind by the humility of the man and even asked for forgiveness for his aggressiveness. But the discarnate spirits do the same. It's good to know. Some people don't like to hear the news that we're being attacked, and attack exists. Chico Xavier experienced that until he was very sick. One of these moments we remember. Recently visiting Minas Gerais, one of the people who really knew Chico Xavier very well, Arnaldo Rocha, he said, Chico Xavier, when he was ill, he was there, laying out on the hospital bed, praying, and he said that often the spirits came to give him passes. And this time he was receiving the passes of the spirits. And then Emmanuel stopped by and said, Chico, what is going on here? He said, Emmanuel, I'm receiving the passes. He said, observe who is giving passes to you. Look at the feet of the spirits who are giving passes to you. Because their face was looking good, but their feet was the feet like of goat, showing that they were not elevated spirits. So he asked Emmanuel, what do I do? He said, pray. So he connected at another level and the spirits left. This is Chico Xavier being attacked by the spirits. Brother X, in several of his books, talks about the spirits of darkness who were often trying to assault Jesus. They didn't tempt Jesus per se because Jesus was not feeling temptation. But they talk about it's a beautiful passage in which Brother X says, Jesus, the guided model, when he was here at the cross, because he was in the human body as well, he says and describes in a beautiful poetical way. He says, and let us listen to this because it's quite fascinating. If it happens to our guided model, it can happen to all of us. As he said, let us pay attention to this. And he said, Jesus was there at the cross, feeling abandoned. He was in need of a friendly connection. He looked around and found nobody but John, some of the women, and not only that, showing also the connection with John and Mary, his mother. But he didn't. He allowed Mary and John to help each other. So then he was recalling all the moments, reminiscing, all the moments, says Brother X, of Peter, Matthew, and all the others, Judas. And he felt lonely. It was at that very moment, and that's what happens to us in our daily lives, when we open that door. Then the spirit of darkness came to Jesus and said, why don't you come out of the cross? Your friends have abandoned you. And where are they? They are not here. They are not here for you. So why don't you come out of the cross? I'm going to give you the world. You know you can do a lot. And Jesus, it was at that very moment that he said, oh, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. And he didn't mention only about the incarnates. He talked about the discarnates who were inciting madness at the moment of passion. So in that regard, it's very important for us to take the lesson and know that the forces of darkness are going to come and assault. But we need to keep on working and serving and walking steadily. We're going to give a last break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with the connection with the spiritual team that works in each Spiritist Center. It's about the spiritual dimensions of the Spiritist Center.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find this CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Oh, finally, the part that we love the most, to know who is in the spiritual dimension taking care of the works. The spiritual team. Sueli Caldas Schubert dedicates a whole chapter to make us understand about the mentors. And she talks about in one of the chapters, it's about chapter 7, the spiritual team, so beautiful, because she quotes Alexander in the book Missionaries of the Light when he said, there is a whole army of workers of the Christ that works in each nuclei of our activities of spiritualization, hiring us to elevated work. And Sueli Caldas Schubert says, the spirit doctors, nurses, therapists, the directors of a center, communicate with its practitioners and the team very often, transmitting messages of clarification, consolation, and stimulus. And also they are in charge of invitation for those who are in the mediumistic group, as long as they take care of the preservation and the maintenance of the sessions, because that's what the spiritual team does. They also choose the spirits that are going to be selected in a mediumistic meeting. It's not us, dear listener. We're not the ones. They are the ones, the spiritual team, that exercise and control and do triage of those who are incarnated. They are the ones who provide opportunity to communicate with those who are enemies of the practitioners. Because we often get into a Spiritist center thinking that we are without any, it's like the hypocrisy. We think we have no problem, no enemy. It's that we do, because we have a track record of wrongdoings in previous lives. And only mature people understand this, because those who are still in the la-la land of it's the rose spiritual practice, they don't want to hear about this. But this is the reality. It's how it happens. And the spiritual team is also the one that helps bringing those who are close to us, our family spirits, and are in need also of being taken care of. They are the ones who take care of the incarnate workers, giving them strength both physically and spiritually. This is good to know. It's very good to know that they are here to help us out. They are the ones who decide when there is a need to do memory regression in a spirit that communicates to help him get out of our problems. And they are the ones who take care of the obsessors because as Elizabeth is saying here, we all have obsessors, unfortunately or not. But let us remember, they are former friends, and this is good to know. And they talk about the spiritual architects of the Spiritist Center. That they are in charge of creating mental fluidic canvas that will help the treatment of the discarnates and the incarnates that are present. It's quite beautiful. It's such an immense work. And we conclude we have a lot to learn, because if we are vigilant, she says, page 102 of the version that I have, it's the last page of chapter 7. She says, if we are vigilant, we can harm a lot this whole structure. And if we are not prepared, we can bring negative vibrations and unbalanced ones to the center. And you can be asking, but I am not perfect. Sometimes I do. Should I stop coming to the center? No. But to correct, we need to correct ourselves. There will be times in our lives that life is super difficult. That's okay. We are working in a team. As long as we feel we have a team, we're good to go. We're good to go. We need to grow mature, and really, together, we can do it and help one another by not allowing gossip to stay in the Spiritist Center. Slander. We need to help one another. Bottom line, the spirits have a lot to do in the spirit realms. They work more than we do, dear listener. They work more than we do. And if we think we're working a lot, it's probably not a tenth of what we need to do. Let us not forget about Brother X's advice, the committee of laziness, the winning strategy, telling us, postpone it for tomorrow. Elizabeth is saying we need to discipline our minds, and that is the bottom line. For us to connect with the true dimensions of a Spiritist Center, we need to follow through the teachings that were brought by the spirits. When Emmanuel told Chico, he was telling all of us, do you want to help in the Spiritist movement? Discipline. 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 That's the only thing. And if we are somewhere in the world listening to this live or on demand, if you have a center, this book is phenomenal. We have the whole course on Spiritist Network given by the Spirit Side of Baltimore, Spirit Side of Virginia last year. You can go there, Spiritual Dimension of the Spiritist Center, and get a deeper understanding about what it is by watching the videos of the course that was given last year based on the book. It's on spiritistnetwork.com. And if you are somewhere where there is no center, we advise prayer, studying. When we started the Spirit Side of Virginia, there was nothing here. The Spirit Side of Baltimore, there was nothing there. We started at home, and we invited friends, nearby people to read, pray, study. It's not on us to decide, should I form a center, shouldn't I form? It's on the spirits. What we need to know is that we need to be obedient to them because they are messengers of a God. We need to open that opportunity. Other people, incarnated ones, can help you. But if you don't count on the most important help, which comes from above, no center will stand strong and steady. Dear listener, I know you want more. We do too. But right now, we're going to share beautiful segments that our Kardec radio team has prepared for you. Dr. Margalhães is going to talk about miracles in the Spiritist Center. Kirsten de Mello is going to talk about the law of labor. And our dear Bernadette Liao is going to share with us about how to teach love to children, which is so vital and important. And also, we are going to stream as well the beautiful segment at the end of the show by Naur Fonseca and Gabi Ferreira when they read they talk about a beautiful passage by Jesus. And at the very, very end, it's a moment for us to share good vibrations and pray together for a lot to come in this planet Earth. Let us listen to this. If you still have questions, if you still have comments, you have time because the show is not done. Stay there. Let us listen, enjoy, and share.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listener. Welcome to the segment Spiritism in Your Life. During this month of October, we're going to bring to you every week some interesting facts about Allan Kardec, the author of the 5 books that contain the principles of Spiritism. Did you know that during the period that Allan Kardec was preparing the Gospel according to Spiritism, he received communications from close to 1,000 authentic Spiritist centers scattered over diverse points of the globe. And after receiving them, he had to analyze each one of those communications and make sure that the information would be matching the communications from different parts of the world at the same time. That was one of the ways that he had to make sure that the information that was being put in Spirit's book, the Gospel according to Spiritism, and the other basic books of the Spiritism teachings were correct and should be published. Dear listener, following along the main theme of the program today, which is the spiritual dimension of the Spiritist Center, we're going to discuss the idea that a lot of people have that we may only go to a Spiritist Center in order to receive a miracle or to be cured from the problems or difficulties that we go through. And why is it so important to discuss that? The answer is simple. Because Spiritism is not here to bring miracles, but to help you change yourself in order to be a better person and maybe understand why we go through the difficulties. Occasionally, of course, we may receive what we ask for. But what happens when we do receive what we ask for? Let's see what Emmanuel says about it in the book Our Daily Bread by Chico Xavier. It is always valuable to cure the sick when permission from on high is allowed. But because of this concession from the Almighty, it is reasonable for the interested individual to reconsider the questions that concern him, realizing that a new day was allowed to his spirit to proceed in a redeeming path. And he continues, there are sick patients who lament being relegated to their bed and cry, not because they have renewed concepts regarding the sacred principles of life, but for not being able to prolong their reckless behavior. Dear listeners, this is one very important thing that we have to keep in mind. First, there are no miracles in the way most people understand it. The so-called miracles are all explained by the natural laws. Second, Spiritism is much more than the phenomenon. Spiritism is about love, charity, science, reasoning, philosophy, all together, explaining to us in a very practical and clear way what we have to do to be better, to help others, and to evolve. Number 3, as the Spirit answered in question 802 of the Spirit's book, you are always wanting miracles, but God sows miracles by handfuls under your feet, and yet you still have men who deny their existence. Did Christ himself convince his contemporaries by the prodigies he accomplished? So, consider these words of the Spirits. We all receive blessings all the time. And when we go to a Spiritist center, just the fact of being there may be the first step for you to realize that you are already receiving the blessings you're asking for. It's just up to us to open ourselves to be ready to receive them. Dear listeners, this was just a brief discussion on this very, very extensive topic. And if you want to suggest any topics for us to talk, please visit KardecRadio.com and send us a message. Thank you very much, and so be it.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find the CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio friends and listeners. It is a great joy that we return again to study Part 3 of the Spirit's book, The Divine Laws, and we continue to discuss about the law of labor. Today, we will be discussing about the necessity of being useful. Interestingly enough, we start out by discussing the necessity to be useful, and it's not by chance that once again, in question 680, Kardec and the Noble Spirits, they quote a much earlier question, question 643, of which is a great and very uplifting quote, which we will share. And it says like this, that doing good does not only mean being charitable, but also being as useful as possible whenever your help is needed. So this redefines our understanding of charity and also of usefulness. Because perhaps sometimes the charity we give is merely to stroke our own ego and is not truly useful. So let us ask ourselves every time we try to be helpful, charitable, are we being useful? And these are not our own words, but the words from the Spirits in the Spirit's book. And the good and noble Spirits, along with Kardec and all the codification, share with us this idea that there is no one on this planet who cannot be useful. Unless, according to question 680, the Spirits tell us, unless their existence voluntarily serves no purpose. And we quote directly from question 680 in the answer from question 680 that states like this, aren't there those who are incapable of working at anything and whose existence serves no purpose? And the Spirits tell us, God is just and only condemns those whose existence voluntarily serves no purpose, because they live by depending on other people's works. And we stop here, friends, to bring to light this statement and the idea of vampirism. Because oftentimes in Spiritism we talk about vampirism, we oftentimes are referring to obsession, from spirit to incarnate. But did we know that there actually exists incarnate to incarnate obsession and actually incarnate to incarnate vampirism? There does exist such a thing, dear friends. And we even respectfully go as far to say that this question 680 is touching on that very subject, that sometimes we suck the living life out of others. When the Spirits state here that there are those that live by depending on other people's works, and that, as we quote from the Spirits, God only condemns those whose existence is voluntary, serves no purpose, because they live depending on other people's work. So, we see here the necessity for us to do our own work to strive all areas, on our intellect, on our moral, on our physical work that we do. But let us reflect on the rest of the answer of Christian 680 when the Spirit state the following: God desires for all to make themselves useful according to their own faculties. Well, what does this mean? Well, each one of us has the ability, has certain strengths, and depending upon our strengths or our good faculties, we can be useful. Some have a strength or a good faculty to be a teacher. Some have a good faculty to be a good sewer or a carpenter. And so in that way, we can find our own niche and purpose and way to be useful. We go even further, dear friends, as we reference a book that is not yet in English, but when it is translated to English, it should be entitled or translated to Torments of Obsession. It is a book that's psychographed by the Brazilian Spiritist medium Divaldo Pereira Franco, by the Spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda. And in that book, it's quite amazing because they share with us this idea of mental laziness. Yes, mental laziness. And that we should steer far away from mental laziness because that can lead us into obsession. It will lead us into our own fall and failure in our lives, dear friends. So let us think and remember and ask ourselves as we pray and meditate, am I being useful to others in my day-to-day life? Because wherever we may find ourselves, whether at work or in the street or in our own homes, our very own homes, with the ones we love, with the ones that God has placed close to us, are we being useful and charitable? We leave you with these thoughts until next week. We wish you many blessings.
Welcome to our Youth Education in Spiritism with Kardec Radio. I am Bernadette Leal, and I'll be spending a few minutes with you, inspiring to bring spiritual awareness and Spiritist teachings to our youth, parents, and educators. Today we'll continue talking about love. Last week, we answered the question, how can I teach my child about love? Today's question is, how can I help my child to practice love? First, let's think of what's our understanding about love before teaching our children to be an instrument of love. So, what is love for you? How would you define love? Do you feel loved? How do you express love? We can find nowadays many books that talk about love. For some people, love is an emotion, a feeling. It involves passion and sex. It is about falling in love, or it is an energy. But one of the best definitions of what love really is can be found in the inspiring first letter to Corinthians, written by Paul the Apostle. He describes love as patient, kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Paul the Apostle invites us to take a close look at ourselves, how we interact with others, and observe if our actions are in fact an expression of love. Parents and educators, love is very intangible for children, and they struggle to understand its grandeur because it involves many ideas. Love is a group of qualities and behavior that is hard to describe with a single word for them. So, what we need to do is to break it apart to help children to comprehend it better. This way, we'll provide them with the steps to go to the next level of love, which is selfless and about loving your neighbor. Here are some suggestions that may help your child to begin thinking and acting in a loving way. You start by having a poster board with words describing what love is based on Paul's, the Apostle, definition. You can write, love is kind, love is good, love is patient, love is humble, love is calm, love is peaceful, and many others. And have it all written and on the wall so your child can always see it. Next, make a little book dedicating each page for one quality. Ask your child to write on that page one sentence about love. For example, love is kind. Then draw a picture and write another sentence giving an example of being kind. He can write, I am kind when I help my friends. And then, every day, look through the pages of the Love Book, inviting your child to share what happened at school, and if he recognizes any of the qualities of love in his actions. Also, make sure you praise him when you notice that your child has acted in a loving way. Another activity that parents and children can do together is to choose the love quality of the day. For instance, patience. Then, you and your child will make a commitment to try to be patient for the whole day. Come on, you can do it. And for the young ones, it is helpful to have something to remind them about it, like a little bracelet with some beads. Each bead may represent one quality. And before moving to another quality, extend it to 2 days, 3 days, and for a week when you feel that your child and you are ready. For older children or teenagers, you can do the love check activity. Here's what you do. Write all the qualities of love on small pieces of paper and put them in a little box. Every night, when your child is ready for bed, you too pick one or more cards from the box and talk about them. In your conversation, take an inventory of your day to see if you were in a situation in which you express that quality or not. Check if you were humble, check if you were patient, kind, honest. Then, talk about the challenges and also successes. And talk about what your goal would be for the following day. This is actually a great opportunity to spend some quality time with your child. These suggestions are wonderful tools that not only children would benefit from them, but many adults as well. So, why not giving it a try? Yes, let us always start practicing love. Kardec Radio listeners, love is our destiny. As a spirit guide enlightened us in Chapter 8 of the Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec, saying, if you have love, you have the most precious thing on earth. You possess the pearl of great value, then nothing, not hatred or persecution, can take away from you. If you have love, your treasure will be in a place where the worms and the rust can't attack it, since you have rid yourself of everything that could mar the purity of your soul. Thanks for listening to Yes. Until next week when we will continue talking about love.
We will return to our program after these messages. Do you find yourself with no time to stop and read or meditate about Spiritism or spirituality? We have a great solution for you. The audio CD called
Unfolding Our Spiritual Nature, Path of Harmony by Ra Tashira is an enlightening CD with a question and answer session as well. Feel the enrichment and purchase your copy today at www.ssbaltimore.org.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Learn more about indigo and crystal children with the book The New Generation, The Spiritist View on Indigo and Crystal Children by Devoto Franco with Vanessa Anzalone. Whether you're a parent or not, this book will enrich your mind. Go to www.ssbaltimore.org and click on Bookstore and purchase your copy today.
The Spiritist magazine is a trimestral, digital periodical that publishes the latest news on the Spiritist thought and the movement in the USA and worldwide. Subscribe now at www.spiritistmagazine.com.
Now we return to our program.
Good morning, dear Kardec Radio listeners, and welcome to one more program of God at Home. I am Naul Fonseca.
And I am Gabi Ferreira. Today's lesson is from the book Jesus in the Home, entitled The Reason for Pain.
Rachel, a long-time servant of Cusa, spoke up in order to ask the Master why pain had become such an affliction on the pathways of the world.
Weren't men and women God's creation? Weren't they entitled to the blessed help of the angels? Didn't heaven watch over the destinies of humankind?
These are questions that we make ourselves, especially when a natural disaster strikes, but also when evil things happen to us. So let's hear what Jesus had to say in that meeting of God at Home.
The reason behind human pain is divine protection. Peoples are families of gods, and like large flocks of sheep, they are enclosed in the sheepfold of the Most High. The earth is the path. The struggle that teaches and edifies is the way forward. Suffering is the good that awakens the sheep that are distracted alongside the path of truth.
And because there was still silence in the room, Jesus continued telling this story.
By order from the Eternal Father, an angel took charge of an ordinary man at birth. He taught him how to feed himself, to move his arms, legs, and muscles, to smile, to rest, and to take refuge in his mother's arms. Without leaving its ward side, day and night it gave him the first lessons of speech, and then guided him to do more things, providing him with the opportunity to learn and think, to read, write, and do arithmetic. Hour by hour it kept him from the pernicious or deadly influences of the miserable spirits that would undoubtedly carry him off to the abyss of death. It breathed illumined thoughts into his mind from the light of the infinite good through 1,000 ways of imperceptible aid, ensuring him health and physical balance. It gave him invisible medicine through air and water, clothing and plants. On innumerous occasions it saved him from error, crime, and unending ills that torment sinners. At dawn, the heavenly page attentively prepared a calm and profitable day for him, watching over his breathing, nourishment, and thought, and guarding his steps with love in order to best conserve his gifts. At dusk, it stood watch at the head of his bed, safeguarding his body against the attack of infernal spirits, watching over him with a mother's care, with sweet spiritual instructions while he was asleep. Throughout his life, it guided his ideas, helped him to choose his emotions, and to find a worthy and respectable job, It enlightened his young mind, breathed holy enthusiasm into him for the pathway of the superior life, and encouraged him to establish a realm of blessing and service, progress and spiritual growth in a home.
However, the man who had never thought to give thanks for the blessings surrounding him became proud and cruel toward others. He who had been given such great blessings from heaven never felt the urge to extend them on earth, and began to humiliate others with the glory with which he had been clothed by his devout and invisible benefactor. When he experienced his first disappointment, which he himself caused by belittling the law of universal love that established fraternity and respect for others, he made a gesture of rebelliousness against heaven, accusing the Supreme Lord of being unjust and indifferent. Deeply hurt, the guardian angel was trying to impress him with the ideal of kindness when a higher angel came down and ordered the first annoyance of the world, hardened by the excess of privileges, to be turned into affliction. Rolling mentally from one affliction to the next, the man began to reap the qualities of patience, humility, love, and peace with all, thus making him the Father's invaluable co-worker in creation.
And then Jesus concluded the story by saying, "Excessive power favors abuse. Too much comfort frequently brings laxity, and bread that piles up in excess usually becomes food for vermin that take pleasure in the mold."
That's why from time to time we need to receive the visit of our friend pain, which always takes us by surprise and find us alone.
Friends, companions can share our pain, but our pain will always be our own personal cross. Supported by divine justice, every man pays back according to his debt and grows in conformance with the situation where he erred. Equip yourself with peace and prepare yourself for the inevitable ascension that is required of you.
And with this message from Joana de Angelis, we conclude our God at Home.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.